There was an important exchange that took place on Capitol Hill yesterday involving Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard. Please take a look.
The intelligence community assessed that Iran maintained the intention to rebuild and to continue to grow their nuclear enrichment capability.
Was it the assessment of the intelligence community that there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime, yes or no?
Senator, the only person who can determine what is and is not an imminent threat is the president.
False. This is the worldwide threats hearing where you present to Congress national intelligence, timely, objective, and independent of political considerations. You've stated today that the intelligence community's assessment is that Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated and that, quote, there had been no efforts since then to try to rebuild their enrichment capability. Was it the assessment of the intelligence community that, as the White House claimed on March 1st, there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime? Yes or no?
Once again, Senator, the intelligence community has provided the inputs that make up this annual threat assessment.
You won't answer the question.
It is the nature of the imminent threat that the president has to make that determination based on a collection and volume
of
information and intelligence that he is provided with.
You're here to be timely, objective, and independent of political considerations.
Exactly what I'm doing.
No, you're evading a question because to provide a candid response to the committee would contradict a statement from the White House.
The most important part of that conversation was when Tulsi Gabbard said the only person who can determine what is and is not an imminent threat is the president. That answer sounds plausible, but it is deeply misleading. Now, to be fair, there is a small kernel of truth in what Tulsi Gabbard said. There's a foundational rule in the U.S. intelligence system. The intelligence community does not make policy. They assess reality, facts, risks, probabilities. They don't decide when or whether to go to war. They don't decide how we respond to national security threats, and they don't set national security strategy. That authority rests with the president as advised by the National Security Council. That line is not optional. It's the entire safeguard against politicized intelligence. So if what Tulsi Gabbard meant to say was that the president makes the final policy determination, that is correct. But that's not what she said. She said that the intelligence community doesn't determine whether a threat is imminent. And that's not a subtle mistake. That is a fundamental misstatement of the intelligence community's mission. I've spent over 25 years in national security, including inside the intelligence community. And there is a specific term for what we're talking about here: warning intelligence. This is an entire discipline that exists within the intelligence community. Warning intelligence encompasses identifying emerging threats, assessing how serious they are, and critically evaluating how soon those threats might materialize. In other words, they're asking questions like, is this threat real? How dangerous is it? And how soon are we likely to be attacked? That's not policy. That is the job of the intelligence community. Coming from almost any other director of national intelligence, I'd be inclined to chalk this up to a misstatement. But I can't do that here because we've seen the Trump administration engage in a repeated pattern to pressure, sideline, or reshape intelligence when it conflicts with President Trump's political narrative. That includes rejecting intelligence findings that are inconvenient to the party line, pushing preferred conclusions even when they don't comport with the evidence, and targeting intelligence professionals who don't fall in line. In that context, Tulsi Gabbard's comments on the Hill are just more of the same when it comes to the Trump administration politicizing the intelligence community. Congress asked a straightforward question. Did your intelligence support the White House's claim of an imminent threat? And instead of giving an answer that almost certainly exists among the analytical professionals within the intelligence community, the DNI redefined the role of the intelligence community in real time. And she did it merely to avoid contradicting the president. That is not apolitical intelligence. That is cover. If the intelligence community won't assess and clearly state how serious and how imminent a threat is, then it is not doing its core mission. It is merely becoming a body that exists to politically insulate the highest members of the federal government. And once that happens, policymakers aren't making decisions based on reality. They're engaging in willful cognitive bias. The intelligence community needs to be held to the highest ethical standards. In the words of Colin Powell, tell me what you know, tell me what you think, and make sure you distinguish between the two. That's it.